everybody, once again. I'm Josh Lewin. It is the Mr. Irrelevant podcast where we tell stories of people overcoming and maybe sometimes even overshooting where they thought they would be. There's no limits, we like to say. And if you believe in yourself, maybe you'll get there after all, although you probably have to eat some crap along the way. So Ken Levine is joining us. He is our guest today, a more fascinating guy I have never met in my life just because of all the different things he's done. But I'm guessing along the way there were pratfalls and pitfalls and frustration. So just real quick, he's a screenwriter, he's a director, he's a producer, he's an author, he's a playwright. Emmy Award-winning guy, having written for MASH and Cheers, The Jeffersons, if anybody remembers The Jeffersons like I do. All kinds of great stuff in the Hollywood world, but also has been doing play-by-play, like I've been doing in my career, and now has pivoted into this playwriting space. Just a fascinating guy. So, Ken, first of all, thank you for joining. Appreciate it. Are you in Hollywood right now, or where are you?
I'm Hollywood adjacent. I'm in Westwood. I'm near UCLA. Yeah.
Bite. I love it.
Yeah. Okay. I'll say hi to everyone on campus for you. Every time I walk on campus, to get some exercise, all the students just stop me and say, Josh?
Yeah, well, if you go right by my statue, I'm sure that's appropriate, right next to Wooden. So for you, let's go back to how you became what you became. When you were a tiny little Ken Levine, what did you want to be? What did you want to be when you grew up?
When I was 8 years old, the Dodgers came to Los Angeles. I grew up in L.A., and it's the first time I heard Vin Scully. And you know how kids want to be baseball players, and they reach a certain age where they realize, they just don't have the talent. It's not going to happen for them. Well, for me, it was 8. But I heard Vin Scully, and I thought, this is great. I can be with a team. I can travel to exotic locations like Cincinnati and Pittsburgh in the summer. This is fantastic. So originally, I wanted to be a baseball announcer. Then I got involved in comedy. I watched the Dick Van Dyke Show in the 60s, and I was in love with Laura Petrie. And this was a revelation to me that, wait, you could get a girl like Laura Petrie by being a comedy writer? You didn't have to throw a spiral? Like, wait, what? So that was kind of always in my head. But overall, my feeling in high school and college is that, in high school, you have to take all of these required classes in history and biology and Spanish and whatever, and you would get one elective that could be art or music or whatever you chose. And I thought, when I get out into the real world, I want to do an elective.
Live your life as an elective. I like that.
Live my life as an elective, yeah. Like, I don't want to do math. I don't want to do English. I want to do something fun. And so first, I went to UCLA, and my statue is right next to yours. And then I became a top 40 radio disc jockey.
Using the name Ken Levine or something?
No. I was using the name Beaver Cleaver.
Well, that's not really funky, but cool. Okay.
Well, the idea is at the time, most radio disc jockeys had these generic names, Mark Elliott and Bob Christopher and that kind of thing. And, they were just interchangeable. And when you heard Beaver Cleaver, you took note.
That's not irrelevant. That's somebody who's breaking clouds.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, your ears perked up and like, who's this guy? This isn't just, Pete McNeil. This is somebody interesting. So I did that, and I got fired a lot. I was a funny top 40 disc jockey. I was sort of Howard Stern before Howard Stern, but I don't have a great radio voice. And there's usually 2 rock stations in each market. And I was always on the second one.
You were always the Mets, not the Yankees.
Exactly. So, but I worked in big markets. I worked in Detroit, but I wasn't on CKLW. I was on WDRQ. I worked in San Francisco. KFRC was the big station. I was KYA. Los Angeles, KHJ was the big station, and I was 10Q. So I was always on the other station, and of course the ratings would come out. And we were a distant second, and there was always upheaval, and I would get fired. And there was a point where I got fired, 1973. I got fired from San Bernardino, where I was doing the all-night show, and I went back home to live with my parents. And back in those days, you sent tapes, and there's not voicemail, and you didn't have your phones with you. So I would just sit all day long and wait for the phone to ring, which never did. And you're watching TV, and if you watch TV, daytime TV, all of the commercials are, you're a loser, you're a loser. You're either a housewife, bake a cake, or you're a loser. Go to DeVry, go here, go there, you're a loser. So it was really a tough period of my life. There was a station in Fresno that was considering hiring me for all nights, and they kind of kept me on the hook for 3 weeks and then went with someone else. And I thought, if I can't even get a job in Fresno doing all nights,
That's pretty irrelevant. Yeah.
what am I doing? And around this time, I saw the Woody Allen movie Sleeper. And it was kind of a revelation for me, because here are all these people in the theater laughing, having a great time. And I'm thinking, wow, this guy's doing sight gags and stories. And, I'm trying to be funny for 14 seconds over the intro for 9 people up at 3:30 in the morning. It's like, wait, what's wrong with this picture? And so that's really when I said, I got to pivot. I've got to work my way out of this. And I had bounced around, and I had gotten some breaks, and I was working some bigger stations, getting fired from bigger stations now. And I was in San Diego, and it was December 18th, 1974, radio station KSEA. And I remember the date because we were in the middle of our big Christmas promotion, which was Christmas the way it was meant to be. And the ratings book came out, and they called for a mandatory jock meeting at 4:00, and our ratings were terrible. And the program director said, they're changing the format. They're going to all gospel music.
Beaver Cleaver is not forgotten.
Yeah. I said, well, they're going to keep me, of course. And somebody said, well, when is this going to happen? They said, 45 minutes. So I called another friend of mine who was program director of another big station in San Diego. And I informed him, I said, hey, Bobby, they're pulling the plug on our station. And he said, okay, this is a secret. Do not tell anybody, but our FM is going to go top 40 in March. And I'll hire you now, and I'll make you my assistant program director, and I'll put you on afternoon drive, and I'll start paying you now. And I said, Bobby, that's a great offer. Thank you. I'm going to LA to starve. It's like, no, that's not for me. I'm going to try to be a writer. And I did. And I moved to LA, and I got a crappy daytime job. And my partner, David Isaacs, and I would write scripts at night and on weekends. And I considered that my full-time job. And I just made the commitment to be a writer.
So did you have any background in it? Did you learn from David? Did you learn from other people? How did you get
No,
to do that?
no. David and I had absolutely no experience or knowledge whatsoever. First thing we wrote was a pilot, and I think it would have cost $75 million in 1973 to produce this thing. Needless to say, nobody wanted it, but we had a good time writing it. We thought we were funny, and we gave it to somebody who I knew was a TV writer, and he read it and he said, "Well, this is ridiculous, but there's some funny stuff in here." He said, "In order to break in, you have to write an episode from an existing show, like at the time the Mary Tyler Moore Show, All in the Family, that type of thing." And so David and I decided, since we knew nothing about how to do this, and back in those days there weren't VCRs, so we would meet in his apartment every Saturday night, and I would make a cassette. I would hold a microphone up to the speaker of the TV, and we would tape the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Then we would sit down and write a detailed outline based on what we saw. And we did that week after week after week until eventually we started figuring out the patterns. And we started figuring out just how they do this. Oh, there's an A story and there's a B story. Mary is always involved. And so, like I said, we figured it out, and then wrote our spec Mary Tyler Moore Show. And I think at the time, this was easy for me. Mary Tyler Moore Show was on Saturday night at 9, but I wasn't going out with anybody. So, I was fine Saturday night. If I was getting laid, I probably would not be a writer today. So
Yeah, but Laura Petrie was your dream girl anyway, and this was Mary Tyler Moore, who was Laura Petrie. So
that's right.
That worked out.
That's right.
Not to go too far off the rails, but from the files of Don't Meet Your Heroes, give me 30 seconds on Mary Tyler Moore and your experience with her.
Well, Mary was, ironically, my partner David Isaacs and I created a show for Mary Tyler Moore in 1985, and we caught her at a bad time in her life. She was only doing television because her movie career had really stalled. Her husband was 3,000 miles away in New York. She was out here all alone. She was told by CBS that her comeback is going to be like Cosby, where she's going to get like a 50 share, and she didn't. They put us up against the number one show in the country, and we still got like a 30 share, but that wasn't enough. And so it was a struggle.
Gotcha. What about some of the successes, though? I mean, obviously, we'll get to Cheers in a second, but to get to Cheers, what had to happen first?
Well, we sold our first script to the Jeffersons. And from there, we were doing some freelance stuff. And, luck has a lot to do with this as well. And we went with a young agent, and she moved to a different agency. And it happened to be the agency that handled Gene Reynolds, who was the showrunner of MASH. And Larry Gelbart, who was the creator of the show, had just left. And Gene was looking for some new young writers. And so we were pitched to him, and he read our stuff and liked it and invited us to come in and pitch MASH. And, we sold a story to MASH, and that was really the key to our success, was that one script. If there's ever a script that has meant the most to us, it was that first script. It's called Out of Sight, Out of Mind. It's from season 5, and it's the one where a gas heater accidentally blows up and Hawkeye is temporarily blind. And we worked out the outline with Gene and went home and started writing the script. And as we're writing it, we realized there's like a lot of funny stuff, Hawkeye blind in an operating room and that sort of thing, but there was never a moment where Hawkeye just talked about what he was going through and what it was like. He was so manic through most of the episode. So we decided to write a speech. We decided to have Hawkeye deliver a speech to BJ about what it was like. And we figured, you know what, if they don't like the speech, you just take it out. You know, we're not doing that at the expense of anything else. We're not changing the story to do this. We're just adding this speech. We must have, oh boy, we worked on this speech for 3 days. There must be 65 drafts, notes on napkins as we're, eating at CPK and stuff like that. So we turn in the script, and they really loved the script and were absolutely blown away by the speech, that we had taken that initiative and written that speech. And I'm proud to say that when you watch that episode, the speech that Alan delivers is word for word our first draft.
I love that.
Of that speech.
So
Yeah.
I want to go forward to, I mean, and you wrote for a bunch of other stuff too, which is all great, but people, I think really got the level of what you guys do when Cheers got going, and eventually Frasier as well. There are so many stories that I've heard about people even on that set, and people who were cast. John Ratzenberger comes to mind, who played Cliff Clavin, the kind of the know-it-all mailman. There's a story, and you can please tell me if this is true or not, that in the original there wasn't even a Cliff, that he basically went into his audition, it didn't go well, but he said, "Do you guys have a bar know-it-all?" And just said, "I think you should have one." Am I close on that? How did
Yeah,
John?
you are.
Yeah.
You are. That is a true story.
That's amazing to me. And some of those other people, it's not that everybody was a no name. I mean, Ted Danson had done some things and all that. But can you tell me some stories just from the people that we all know now, because they're all super famous now, from the writers to some of these directors to the cast? It seems like there must have been some irrelevant moments for pretty much all of these people at some point along the way. And they all kind of figured it out.
Yeah, I'm going to tell a story about Shelley Long. And, a lot has been written about, well, she was kind of difficult, et cetera, et cetera. She had a process. I also felt that she had the toughest character to play on television. To be true to that Diane character who was pretentious and condescending, and yet still have her lovable and vulnerable, it would be so easy to hate her. And she managed to walk that tightrope over Niagara Falls. I thought she did a great job. But here's a story I like to tell about Shelley. Shelley grew up in the Midwest in Indianapolis, and she moved to Chicago. And she was working at Second City and trying to make it. And she got hired by a local furniture company to be their spokesperson on TV. And it was one of those bad blue screens, and it's like, hey, lamp sales at Lewin's this weekend, one of those kind of things. So she did those for a couple of years, and then she decided she's got to move to Los Angeles. If she really wants to make it, she has to come out here. And she said to the guy, I'm sorry, I'm going to move to LA. And he said, if you come back like 3 times a year to do our commercials, record a bunch of commercials each time, I'll just keep you on. Which she did, and it allowed her to audition in LA and go through all of the things that young actors are going through without having to be, a waiter at the Cheesecake Factory. So now she gets a couple of roles here and there. Now she gets Cheers. Okay, and now she's on Cheers every week. She's a star on a major TV series. She went back for 2 years and still did their commercials.
I love that. I love that. I mean, 'cause a lot of
she
these
felt a loyalty to them, and she went back, even though she's an Emmy winner, Shelley Long, talking about, hey, check out this sofa.
The other amazing thing to me about the whole Cheers dynamic, I mean, a guy like George Wendt, who famously played Norm, to me, it seems like that could have been just a one-off character that had no depth, just, a guy that comes in, says something funny, but that's it. Did he commit to the process of making that more important? Like, I could be just a background guy. I'm sure John Ratzenberger, same thing. Cliffy could have just been some guy, but the two of them became stars by it seems like just kind of being themselves and kind of projecting that out and maybe forcing the writers to say to themselves, hey, we got to do more with these guys.
Well, that occurs when the actors really deliver. And you see from week to week that George nails every joke he has, then you're more inclined to just feed him more. Just go with what works. And that was the case with both of them. And there's some people that come in for like a one shot that you go, that person's interesting. And I'll give you an example of that. I think it was season 4, maybe, where Frasier comes in, and this is the teaser, which is right at the beginning of the show, the little 2-minute independent scene, which was a giant pain in the ass to do every week. But he comes in with this date. It's just 2 pages. And we said, boy, she's interesting. And that's an interesting chemistry between those two. And that was BB Newirth.
Lilith.
Yeah, that was Lilith. Yeah. She came in for basically, like I said, 2 pages. And we just sparked to her.
2 pages is the perfect example of kind of, targeted irrelevance, I would call it. You're just supposed to be here to do a certain job. I think about Patrick Warburton on Seinfeld. David Puddy was just supposed to be one of the rando boyfriends, just like Jerry has a bunch of rando girlfriends. And all of a sudden, Patrick Warburton is like one of the best and funniest callbacks, for years on that show. So can actors, can writers, is it really just about delivering in the moment and just kind of let's see what happens once I nail it?
Yeah, it really is. I'll give you another example. This is a pretty great story. On Cheers, we were doing an episode where Rebecca hires this guy to create a jingle for Cheers. And he was kind of this old guy, old tin pan guy. And we rehearsed with him, and he was fine all through the week. We have our dress rehearsal at 5:30, and then we filmed the show at 7. He was fine for the dress rehearsal. Between that and the show, he got in his car and drove away and never came back.
Okay.
Needless to say, we only were able to shoot half of the show where he wasn't in it, and they had to recast. So they recast John Mahoney.
Wow.
And this happened to be right at the time that Peter Casey, David Lee, and David Angel were casting Frasier. And they watched the episode and came in the next day and said, he'd be good for the dad.
On Frasier, yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. So whatever happened to the guy that got in his car and drove? Did you ever find him?
He was just so freaked out. I will say this, it's the last acting gig he ever got.
Wow. So I want to real quick go to your kind of your next career, the one you wanted to have all along. You got to be in baseball for a really good long time, with the Dodgers for a while too, by the way, which, talk about dreams coming true, and you get to be next to Vin Scully a little bit and all of that. But are there examples too, I guess, in that world where It's just getting your break, just believing in it, showing up. I mean, you rode the buses in the minor leagues already as an Emmy Award winning television guy because you still had this burning desire to do baseball. So you go to Norfolk, Virginia, you go to Syracuse, New York, and you're working these hot summers in small booths in front of 1,100 fans, not 40,000 fans. What made you stick with it the way you did?
Well, and it goes beyond that because the way I learned to do play by play was for 2 years, I would go to the upper deck of Dodger Stadium and Anaheim Stadium, and I would just call games. And the fans were like, "Who's this idiot?" you know, and I just got in my reps and did hundreds and hundreds of games before I sent out my tapes. And I remember my first day in Syracuse, I thought to myself, when I was calling games from the stands, if I had a cold, I would take a couple of days off. If there was a screening I wanted to see, I would take a day off. Well, here, there's no days off. I finished this game and I have 143 more to go. What happens if after 2 weeks I go, you know what? This just isn't what I'd hoped it would be. And then I had 127 more games to go. But fortunately, the opposite was the case, that I was depressed when the season came to an end. But you're right. There were lots of nights in Syracuse. I mean, you were in Rochester, it's the same thing. It never got up to 30, until like May 1st.
It's not San Bernardino. Yeah, no, we got.
Yeah, I mean, there was like nobody in the stands, and the wind is howling, and you're in this old wooden press box, and then in the summer it's 1,000 degrees, and people accuse me of getting major league jobs because of my story of the background of being a TV writer. And I tell people, I didn't sit on 10-hour bus rides, to sharpen my comedic skills. You put in the time,
you do the
put
work,
in the effort, you make the mistakes. I would listen back to tapes and and the other thing too, looking back at it, I am so glad I had those 3 years of minor league baseball to make some of those mistakes and to see some of those plays unfold that at the time befuddled me. And then I got into the majors and I'd see that play and I'd go, okay, I Toledo. I remember that from Toledo. Yeah, I'm sure you feel the same way.
Yeah, well, I'm just fascinated because it just seems like you embraced making mistakes, being uncomfortable, putting yourself in situations that were challenging, and just kind of saying, okay, like, let me see if I can figure it out. I mean, is that the secret sauce?
Yeah, to me, the secret sauce is the 10,000 hours of rehearsal. And it's really the commitment to do it. But I will say this. I never thought I would make the big leagues. That wasn't my ultimate goal. So if I never made the big leagues, I wouldn't walk away and go, well, this was for nothing. This was a disappointment. I wanted the experience of getting up in the morning, and my only responsibility was that night I was going to go to a ballpark and announce a baseball game. That the process and the experience itself was going to be enough. Because again, I thought, look, I don't have the John Miller voice or the Josh Lewin voice.
No, you don't.
And I've never played. I was a terrible athlete. I learned that at 8. I never played. So it was like, what do I have going for me? And what I thought I had going for me was my style. I had humor. Everything that I set out to do, I try to be the best. And I try to be unique in the sense that whether it's a script assignment or a job with the Seattle Mariners, it's like other people can't do what I do.
That's a great way to look at it. And now,
Yeah.
I don't want to call this your final pivot because you're still a young enough person. You could have
I
five
still want
other
to be a
pivots.
Benihana chef, but that'll come.
Well, I mean, I was going to say, I don't know what the final end game is, but now you're into this playwriting space. And again, my guess is you hadn't really done that before, but now not only are you doing it, you've written several. They're being produced. They're successful. They're in places like Prague. I mean, so tell me about this latest pivot, how you got into it, why it's rewarding for you, and just the whole kit and caboodle, if you will.
Well, I've always been a fan of the theater, and people like Neil Simon, uh, are idols for me. And, the television, the problem with TV is, you go to the networks and they tell you, okay, we're looking for buddy comedies, we're looking for nuclear families, we're looking, and then so like, okay, all right, what buddy comedy can I write? When you're writing plays, you can write about whatever you want, whatever age group you want. Um, you can make it as dramatic, as comedic as you like. You choose the tone, and it's just very liberating. And the other great thing about the theater is that, as opposed to television or screenplays, I own the play. So if and this occurred once where a producer hired me to write a play, and I wrote the play, and the producer and I then had a major conflict of interest issue, and finally I quit. And when I quit, I took my play with me.
That's kind of a powerful move. That's
Yeah, yeah,
liberating.
yeah. I took my plate with me. So, you don't make a lot of money in the theater, but it's really something that's fun. And then I do cartoons for the New Yorker. I used to draw cartoons as a kid, and I gave it up. And during the pandemic, during the lockdown, I got in touch with someone who is a New Yorker cartoonist, Julia Suits, and I said, "Well, I used to draw." And she said, "Well, let's see what you can do." And I sat down with a pencil and paper and realized it's not like riding a bike, that I
And
almost had to
coming back,
learn to do it all over again. And this is the lockdown. We had nothing to do anyway. And God bless her, she put me through cartoon boot camp for like 4 or 5 months. I would draw stuff and it's like, this is wrong. This is wrong. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. And like, okay, all right. And so I probably worked 5, 6 months doing hundreds of cartoons before I even felt that I was qualified enough.
and which was the breakthrough one? Describe it to me. With the first one that goes into print.
The first one that went into print was two mice and one is chawing on a cable. And I think the line is, he who controls the internet controls the world.
So this Renaissance man, Ken Levine, I'm sorry to have to end it here, Ken, because I could talk to you for hours, but I just think that the great lesson with you is, and this I put you in with the Steve Martins and Justin Timberlakes and Ben Franklins that can do just a lot of different stuff and do it well. And what I love about you is once you master something, it's kind of on to the next, and you don't forget what you did because you could still call a baseball game tomorrow, be great at it. You could probably write a sitcom tomorrow and be great at it. You don't lose that. But the fact that you are interested enough to be interesting in many different facets, I think is just such a great skill. And I love that you share that with the world. And I love that you've had all these great adventures along the way.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It keeps you young.
Yeah, apparently.
It keeps you young.
Because you're like 105.
You're learning new things. You're always learning. You're always trying to improve. keeps you. If I played golf, none of this would happen.
Yeah, it's a good place to end it because I actually am going out to play golf right now. So anyway, Ken Levine has been our wonderful guest. And real quick, if they want to see a play, any of them coming up anytime soon?
Yeah, but in different places, and I don't remember exactly which play where. I think British Columbia, Pennsylvania. If you're on the East Coast, find me.
Or just Google Ken Levine and
Right.
it'll pop up. But anyway, buddy, great catching up, and thank you for doing this. I'm going to say goodbye to the world right now, just for a little bit. For Ken, I'm Josh, the Mr. Irrelevant podcast. We'll do it again with another fascinating guest, I promise. Have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves.